Summer is just around the corner, and you might be thinking about summer camps and that it might be too late to sign your child up, but it's actually not. Jenny Wolkowitz from Tips on Trips and Camps is here today to talk about a wide array of creative summer opportunities as well as the benefits of summer camp. So please stay with us next on City Corner. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson and welcome to City Corner. Today we're talking about summer camps because yes, summer is just around the corner and it's not too late to sign your child up for summer camps, but camps aren't just how they used to be. There's a lot more versatility and creativity out there, and we're going to learn all about it today as well as the benefits of summer camps. Joining me is Jenny Wolkowitz. She is the St. Louis advisor for Tips on Trips and Camps. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Sarah.
So here we are in May. Summer's really just in a few weeks. I mean, is it actually too late to sign up for summer camps?
Surprisingly, no. There are still many day camps that have space and then tons of overnight camps. If you're flexible on your dates, you can work yourself into a camp. Some of the sessions are sold out, but if you can go at the later part of the summer, there are definitely spaces in many camps.
And when you talk about those camps, it's both day camps and overnight camps that are still available?
Absolutely. I work primarily with overnight camps, but I know of all the different day camp options in St. Louis as well, and it's not too late for all of them.
So speaking of what you do and what you work with, explain what Tips on Trips, and it says it in the name, Tips on Trips and Camps, but what exactly does Tips on Trips and Camps do?
Sure, so I consult with families either by phone, by email, in person. I ask them questions about what they're looking for, and those questions are, you know, whether it's co-ed or a single gender camp, if it's close by home, or do they want to really go far away? Do they want lakes? Do they want mountains? Do they need a cooler climate because their child has asthma? I take all of that, budget considerations, take all of that into consideration and make recommendations on camps that I think fit what they're looking for. Then once I send them websites and the camps send them their information, I help them make a decision on camp based upon the fact that I have visited personally camps that I recommend. I give them references to call. I give them a list of questions for directors so that they can make a really educated decision about where they're sending their child to camp.
Wow, and that's, you know, we're looking at some photos. I mean, I was saying, you know, at the start, when I was growing up, it felt like camp was, you know, I went to camp down in the outskirts of St. Louis. It was camping, canoeing. But now it's like camps just seem, the creative options that just seem like there's so many. There's just so many out there, and again, the versatility. And tell me about that kind of versatility for
well,
camps.
Of course, traditional camps are still the popular majority, and especially in the Midwest.
Okay.
But if families are willing to travel, especially to East and West Coasts, there are programs that range from entrepreneurial business camps with the rise in popularity of Shark Tank and The Apprentice.
Really?
Yes.
So how, just explain, so how does that, for what age group? For teenagers?
For even as young as 7 years old, up through teenagers. Yeah,
Wow.
believe it or not. There's culinary arts camps, theater and performing arts camps, fishing camps, sports camps of all kinds, from lacrosse to wrestling to scuba diving to circus arts. There's really been a rise in popularity of specialty camps.
And so and I know you cover camps across the country, so how do you find out about these camps? Do you just keep a running list? Do they contact you, or do you just try to keep your eye out on everything that's out there?
So the first thing is we don't represent camps that are in their first year of operation. So they have something under their belt. We meet with the directors. We vet the programs pretty seriously by visiting the programs, knowing the directors. I work with a network of women throughout the United States and a couple abroad. I started the program, or the business here 10 years ago in St. Louis, but it started on the East Coast in 1971. And so we break up into pairs in the summer, we visit camps, and so that we can really give parents more than what they find in the brochure or on the website. And if I haven't visited a program, then our LA consultant has, and vice versa. If you're looking for something in New York, our New York consultant has visited it. But last year I visited programs in New York and Pennsylvania, saw a lot of theater and performing arts camps and circus camps, and so that's how we stay abreast of all of the information.
So with some of the camps that you mentioned, or the categories or types of camps, what about, you start thinking price? I mean,
Sure.
Are there camps that are affordable? I imagine they go the full spectrum.
They do.
But are there some that you can refer family to that are actually on the affordable side of things?
Sure, and unfortunately, this is now the time where that can work for you or against you. So most of the time, I would say if finances are tight, to look in the beginning of the year, because that's when camps still have scholarship monies to give out. So this late in the year, they've probably given out their scholarship monies, but they're willing to give a discount if they want to fill up a session, or if they have a trip that's mostly girls and they need more boys on the program. So I get sometimes late in the season discounts from directors that want me to push their programs, but generally earlier in the year is better. And typically for these more high-end camps, $1,000 a week is really the thing to think about, but there's everything in between.
There's everything in between. So
Yes.
you're talking about the Midwest trends that a lot are still more traditional
They are.
camps. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it different when you get to the coast?
It is. Each region differs. The Midwestern camps are predominantly single-gender camps, so either all boys or all girls, or a boys' side and a girls' side, and maybe only mix for socials once a week or something. And that's pretty typical for the Midwestern camps. There are co-ed camps, and there are exceptions to that, but that's typical. If you get to the California camps, they're definitely almost all co-ed, and they're shorter session. So each region has its differences.
Has there? Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that in the Midwest, that they would be single-sex camps as well, would be more popular. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to talk about actually the benefits of summer camp and how you know when your child is ready to go to an away camp, to an overnight camp. So please stay with us here on City Corner after this short break.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking about summer camps, and I have Jenny Wolkowitz in studio. She's from Tips on Trips and Camps, and we've been talking about the wide array of creative summer camps. Now, when we get to doing day camps versus overnight camps, I mean, how do you know when your child's ready? Is there a certain age that they're just automatically ready to go to overnight camp?
Definitely
how do you
not.
really know when they're ready to go away overnight?
Right. So, well, first of all, day camps for most families is no longer a luxury. It's more of a necessity. So especially for dual working couples and single household couples, you know, they have to have something for their kids to do when they're out of school. So that's kind of the first step, and that's a building block towards overnight camps. The things you start to ask yourself, if they're ready for overnight camp, can they sleep out successfully, or do they call home? Do they suddenly have a stomach ache every time they sleep out? Probably not. Ready? If they're sleeping out successfully all the time, certainly a sign of readiness. Can they take a trip away with a grandparent or an aunt or uncle and have no problems? Those are kind of the questions I ask families to see if they're ready. Are their kids talking about it? Do they want to go? Some people say, well, my kid's now 12 years old. Should I force them to go?
Right.
And so we talk through those things. But, when they're 7, 8, 9, there's definitely readiness signs.
That's the age that's ready. And what
Yeah.
about when they are like 12 years old, 13 years old, and they haven't been away ever? I mean,
Right.
do you encourage families
I
to
do.
do so?
I try and focus in on what would draw the kid to go away. So if they haven't been jazzed about the idea of a traditional overnight camp, whether it's because of bugs or whatever, so maybe a specialty camp might be the draw. So something that they can really singularly focus on, art or sports or something that they love, and they won't have to worry about living in a bunk. Maybe they'll be living in a dorm room on a college campus, a boarding school campus, and kind of takes those certain fears out of it for them, and that may be, but I really think, kids need to have experiences away from home as a building block towards eventually college and being successful adults on their own.
And with a lot of the families that you worked with who did already sign up their child for camps, now they're probably coming back to you saying, like, what's that checklist? Like, what should I make
Yes.
sure I've done or I do
Sure.
in order to prepare my child to go away? So, I mean, do you have some, like, your, couple
Absolutely.
essentials that they have to do for families listening who are sending their kids off?
Yes, there's the emotional and then there's the practical. The practical is, of course, looking at that camp packing list, making sure, and not doing it the week before camp, because sometimes there are things you need to get and you need to order, you need to search around in different stores. So, if you don't want to be in a flurry the last week before camp.
Looking for an army blanket.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
The day before you leave, right?
So that's the practical part.
Okay.
The emotional part, if you've gone through the research together with your child and you've looked at the website and you've looked at the videos, you've talked about what type of activities to expect, what type of downtime, what the cabins might look like. So that's all stuff to help them, kind of in their mind figure out what camp is about. And then, of course, once they're away, there's the, constant communication through letters, if there are packages allowed to the camp, care packages. Packing something like a security blanket or animal. It's funny because my third daughter, when she went away, she said, I don't need my dog patches. And of course, we didn't pack him. And then she had some homesickness while she was away, and I ended up having to overnight patches to her.
Really?
So really the best thing is just, if there's something that might give them some security, put it in a pillowcase and tuck it away. If they need it, it's there. If not, then they'll bring it home. And
No, that's a good idea. And you mentioned homesickness. So, I mean, sending something like a security blanket or something that your child really might sleep with or something.
Yes.
So that might be one way. How else do you, when parents might call you in the middle of the summer and say, they're dealing with homesickness, I mean, what typically do you recommend?
Well, the first thing I tell them is not to strike a deal before the kid leaves and say, if you're homesick, I'm going to pick you up. That's probably the worst thing you can
Really?
say. Instead, tell them homesickness is a part of it. Most kids have a little bit of it and will get through it. Explain to them that there are processes at camp and people at camp to help them through that. Is there a camp mom? That's often a staff person at camp. Just let them know that it's not unusual, it's very normal, and that they will get through it.
Okay. No, that's good. Yeah, because I think a parent's first inclination, especially if it's their child's first time away, would be, I'll come and get you.
Oh, yeah,
Especially if it's not that far away.
Right.
So no, that's good advice. We have these photos again of that really show, campers riding elephants. And again, this gets back at this idea that there's traditional camps and then there's just this huge area of specialty camps. When did you see that come about? Why did that come about, and when did that come about? Where you've got sailing, I feel, has kind of been around, but you have these, it's like the Alps or the Andes Mountains or something. I mean, when did this come about?
Well, I think probably in the last 20 years, we've really seen a rise in teen trips. So there's the camp, that's why it's tips on trips and camps. And the camps came first, but that's at the end of our, it's strange. But the trips, it's really that, families didn't have the means to take their whole family, for instance, on an incredible adventure to Alaska or to the Galapagos, as you mentioned earlier. but they could afford, one child to do that one time in their life. And every parent is looking for that great college essay for their child, and those incredible trips tend to be the subject matter of college essays for kids later on.
And do you see with some of the camps that, I feel like we have so many studies on like the benefits of summer school and the benefits of after school programming. We've come to really have, sociologists do all these studies on this. I mean, with camps, what do you see any in the creation of camps? Are there certain things that you're seeing more and more in terms of trends that help establish benefits like independence? Is there something that all camps are doing now, regardless of if it's a performing arts camp or a traditional camps, but is everyone sort of following some sort of core, core method or core approach to help establish, these sort of traits in children?
Well, the number one priority, of course, for every camp is safety. And I think we help to ensure that you're sending your child to a safe place by knowing the directors, by seeing them for ourselves, that they are safe places. Then after that, it's each director should have their philosophy of what they're trying to do with their camper. And if you talk to a director and you ask them what their philosophy is and they can't tell you, then it's probably not the best camp, or if it's not in line with your family values, then it's probably not the right camp. But I think every camp is trying to teach kids, self-reliance and the ability to navigate situations different from home. Certainly there are different rules in the dining hall than there are at your dinner table at home. And so it's interesting.
Yeah, to see that. No, well, we're going to talk more about that. I mean, it's not just independence, there's the emotional development as well. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to finish up really talking about the benefits of sending your child away to summer camp. So again, please stay with us after this short break.
You must be your fairy godmother?
It doesn't take a fairy godmother to tell you that the right fit means everything. Especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
Oh, that does make a difference.
Remember, their happily ever afters are in your hands. To find out more, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Abandoned and lost. From the dark, cold streets of the city to a cage in the local shelter, to heaven, your lap.
I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking about summer camps with Jenny Wolkowitz from Tips on Trips and Camps. And we're going to continue our discussion, but now really focusing on the benefits of sending your child away to summer camp, or even really with day camp. But let's just talk about when we think of traditional overnight camps, what are some of the benefits?
Self-reliance, learning how to make decisions for yourself. At home, your mom's making those decisions. At camp, you decide which activities you want to take, and you decide which food you want to take from the line. So a lot of those decision making, and then learning how to keep your place neat and tidy. You've of course learned how to navigate in school about don't take that kid's pencil, but now you're actually living in a bunk with 10, 12 kids, and how do you keep your stuff, and how do you do your chores? There are these chores. A lot of families don't have chores for their kids anymore, and at camp they actually do it, and parents come back and tell me after their kid comes back from camp, wow, they're making their bed every day, they're taking their plate to the sink, things that they weren't doing before they left.
And do you feel those really stick with them? I mean, now that you're thinking about it, I'm remembering you had to make your bed every day, and
Right.
the trumpet would sound us at like 6 in the morning or
Right.
7, and someone else is telling you to get up. I mean, do you feel that this really sticks with kids past camp, or do you need to do it year after summer after summer after summer?
Well, some kids are lifetime campers. They go when they're 7 or 8 years old, and they go all the way through. They maybe even become a CIT and a staff person there. Then there are the kids that go for 1 or 2 summers, and then that's it. I think the benefits, of course, the more you do something, the more they stick with you, but the benefit of any time away and learning those skills, I think, is a benefit to a child.
And also, I mean, would you say that there's the emotional side of the emotional benefit where, a camper or a child has to really learn to, only rely on themselves in certain instances? I mean, they're having to interact with other kids their age, and someone might say something that hurt their feelings, or they might do something, and they're learning to really emotionally sort of be independent.
Sure, they learn peer relations are huge in summer camp because they're living together. And they also have to learn how to, when is it appropriate to go to the counselor and advocate for themselves? Are they, God forbid, being bullied at camp? But bullying happens in every setting when you have children. And so I think they're learning a lot of life skills. Plus, at camps that are really based on skills, they go back summer after summer, and the first summer they've learned to, tie knots for sailing. And then, 5 summers later, they're sailing their own boat. So each summer builds upon the next. And so there's just life skills, not that they're going to be a master sailor, but just knowing how to build upon skills is important for children.
And what would you say in terms, you mentioned, with life skills, some of the long-term rewards of sending kids off to camp? You earlier, when we were talking, said, some of these camps really are great material for writing a college entrance essay. But
Absolutely.
I mean, what someone might learn or just experience at camp, how does that affect them later in life? Whether it is in college, they're prepared to live with other people, or even for a career.
Yeah, I think, we talked about the building blocks. So from day camp to overnight camp to maybe a teen trip where they're, spending time in another country, to college. So my kids are perfect examples. My oldest daughter did a semester in Israel, and she is now in her freshman year of college. She's far away. She's in Arizona. She's actually doing great. A lot of her peers are having a tough time being away from home. They transferred back, or they've dropped out for the semester. She had no problems because she had learned how to make friends, how to live far away. It was just a really good building block for us in particular.
That she's made that adjustment prior to the big one, which is, when you might go away for college. No, I think that's, and you mentioned that making friends, it's something we really don't think that much about, but a lot of kids, they go to school with the same kids year after year after year, and it's not that they don't make friends, but they probably have a circle, and they're not used to what it means to actually go out and make new friends.
Well, and we were talking about it over the break, but at certain camps they have to be totally unplugged. So there's no phone in front of their face. They don't play games. They really engage in face-to-face interaction with kids, and they do have to kind of learn how to make a friend when it's not based upon texts or Facebook.
Right. They have to learn the basics of starting a conversation with someone you don't know.
Exactly.
And finding stuff in common. But then you start to see that's when the sort of lifelong friendships in many ways develop, or friendships that, that were unexpected.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned teen programs with your daughter. Tell me about some of them, because they're not just, they're not just, again, camps. They're actually internships and a lot of other things. So explain some of those teen programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Kids can do a wilderness trip, an outdoor adventure trip, where they're hiking, backpacking, canoeing, all sorts of outdoor adventures. And that is in Colorado, that's in North Carolina, and that can be in France, and various different locales. They can go on a college campus and take courses, kind of a pre-college experience, so that they're more ready for college. They can do a community service trip where they're working with animals, working with children in an orphanage. I think you said you did that in high school, where they're building classrooms in, a very poor area. So, and it all depends. Do they want to live in a house with locals, or do they want to live in hostels with peers? And so very much everything in between.
I mean, you work with your own children have obviously gone off to camps and studied abroad, and I imagine you yourself did at one point, and you work with just thousands of families. What would you say if you had to narrow it down, like just point blank, like top 3 reasons like why you should send your kids away to camp, what that experience is? What have you learned in your field of work and personally?
Right. Well, these aren't just recreational fun times. They are camps and these teen trips that all have a good philosophy. They have a goal in mind of what they're trying to teach the kids. And so, what they're teaching them is new skills or building on old skills. They're teaching them, like we said, how to make friends and how to really, build those connections. They're teaching them how to live without technology, which, some camps allow it, many camps don't. Most of the Midwestern camps do not. They're learning how to write letters. I mean, the basics of that. I mean, what kids, write anymore? They're all on their keyboards. So the list keeps just on and on and on.
But those are the ones that you see. And are there any things that, I mean, imagine each year, I saw something not too long ago where it was talking about space camp, and I remember that was a big thing when I was growing up, and they made that movie, Space Camp. I mean, what would you say are some of the ones that have come across your radar categorically that just surprise you? Like, I'm sure each year something comes up where you think, this one tops the next, but give me some of the ones that are pretty far out there.
We talked about the entrepreneurial camps, in the beginning, and so, an 8-year-old learning to start a business, I think, is pretty unusual. Where kids are going is it used to be Western Europe was where everybody went. Now we're talking about, Africa and Asia, and so I think going to points beyond is really kind of the big new frontier.
Okay, and anyone can reach out to you. Is it?
Absolutely.
That's correct. And
yes.
Am I
it's
right?
A free
It's
service.
free.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Absolutely free.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we've got the information there on the screen for you. It's tips on trips and camps. And again, it says right there, it's free, and you can call that number 314-432-8642 or visit the website tipsontripsandcamps.com and just look for Jenny. She's a St. Louis advisor, so if you're in the area, you can contact her with help for the remainder of the summer, as well as even in preparation for next year. So thank you for being here. This was fun. As you were talking, I'm kind of like reliving these images of when I was in camp, and it's just really exciting. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you at home for watching City Corner, and please keep it right here on STL TV. Experience St. Louis.